Chapter 9, Watership Down audiobook. The Crow and the Bean Field. The sun rose while they were still lying in the thorn. Already several of the rabbits are asleep, crouching uneasily between the thick stems, aware of the chance of danger, but too tired to do more than trust to luck. Hazel, looking at them, felt almost insecure as he was on the riverbank. The hedgerow in the open field was no place to remain all day. Well, where can they go? Where can they go? He needed to know more about their surroundings. He moved along the hedge, feeling the breeze from the south and looking for some spots where he could sit and sense it without too much risk. The smells that come down from the higher ground might tell him something. He came to a wide gap which had been trodden into the mud by cattle. He could see them grazing in the next field further up the slope. He went cautiously out into the field, squatted down amongst a clump of thistles, and began to smell the wind. Now he was clear of the hawthorn scent of the hedge and the reek of cattle dung. Cattle shit, yeah. He became fully aware of what had already been drifting into his nostrils while he was lying amongst the thorn. There was only one smell in the wind, and it was new to him, a strong, fresh, sweet fragrance that filled the air. It was healthy enough. There was no harm in it. But what was it? And why is it so strong? How could it exclude every other smell in open country on the south wind? The source must be close by. Hazel wondered where to send one of the rabbits to find out. Dandelion would be over the top and back almost as fast as a hare. But then his sense of adventure and mischief prompted him. He would go himself and bring back some news before they even knew he was gone. That would give Bigwig something to bite on. He ran easily up the meadow towards the cows. As he came across, they raised their heads and gazed at him, all together for a moment before returning to their feeding. A great black bird was flapping and hopping a little way behind the herd. It looked rather like a large rook, but unlike a rook, it was alone. He watched its greenish, powerful beak stabbing at the ground, but could not have made out what it was doing. It so happened that Hazel had never seen a crow. Did not occur to him that it was following the track of a mole in hope of killing it with a blow of its beak and then pulling it out of its shallow run. If he had realized this, he may not have classified it lightheartedly as a knothawk. That is, anything from a wren to a pheasant, and continued his way up the slope. The strange fragrance was stronger now, coming over the top of the rise in a wave of scent that struck him powerfully, as the scent of orange blossom in the Mediterranean strikes a traveler who smells it for the first time. Fascinated, he ran to the crest, nearby another hedgerow, and beyond, more gently in the breeze, stood a field of broad beans in full flower. Hazel squatted on his haunches and stared at the ordinary forest of small glaucous trees with their columns of black and white bloom. He had never seen anything like it. Wheat and barley he knew, but once he has been in a field of turnips. But this is entirely different from any of those and seems somehow attractive, wholesome. True, the rabbits cannot eat these plants, and he could smell that. But they could lie amongst them for as long as they liked. It could move through them easily and unseen. Hazel determined then and there to bring the rabbits up to the bean field for shelter and rest until evening. He ran back and found the others where he had left them. Bigwig and Silver were awake, but all the rest were napping uneasily. "Not asleep, Silver?" he said. "It's too dangerous, Hazel," replied Silver. "I'd like to sleep as much as anyone. But if we all sleep, something comes, who's going to spot it?" "I know. I found a place where we could sleep safely as long as we like." "A burrow?" "No, not a burrow. A great field of scented flowers and plants that will cover us sight and sound and smell until we are rested. Come on out here and smell it if you like." Both rabbits did so. "You say you've seen these plants?" said Bigwig, turning his ears to catch the distant rustling of beans. "Yes. They're only over the top. Come on. Let's get the others moving before the man comes with his hoodoo, or they'll scatter all over the place." A note. A hoodoo is a tractor or any kind of motor vehicle. Silver roused the other and began to coax them into the field. They stumbled out drowsily, responding with reluctance to his repeated assurance that it was only a little way. They became widely separated as they staggered up the slope. Silver and Bigwig led the way, with Hazel and Buckthorn a distance behind. The rest idled along, hopping a few yards, pausing to nibble or to pass droppings, to take a shit, on the warm, sunny grass. Well, I'm not laying down in any grass now.
Yeah.
I mean, laying in fucking bunny crap, huh? Well, that kind of ruined it for me. Silver was almost at the crest when suddenly, from halfway up, there came a high screaming. A sound a rabbit makes, not to call for help or to frighten the enemy, but simply out of terror. Piper and Pipkin, limping behind the others, had conspicuously undersized and tired, were being attacked by the crow. It had flown low along the ground, then pouncing. It aimed a blow of its great bill at Fiber, who just managed to dodge it in time. Now it was leaping and hopping around the grass tussocks, striking at the two rabbits with terrible darts of its head. Crows aim at the eyes, and Pipkin sensed this and buried his head in a clump of rank grass and was trying to burrow further in. It was he who was screaming. "Ah! Ah!" How does rabbits scream? They scream like "ee" or something like that? Okay. Hazel covered the distance down the slope in a few seconds. He had no idea what he was going to do, and if the crow had ignored him, he was probably have been at a loss. But by dashing up, he distracted its attention, and it turned to him. He swerved past it, stopped, looking back, and saw Bigwig come racing in from the opposite side. The crow turned again, struck at Bigwig, and missed. Hazel heard the beak hit a pebble in the grass with a sound like a snail shell when a thrust beats it against a stone. As Silver followed Bigwig, it recovered and faced him squarely. Silver stopped short in fear, and the crow seems to dance before him, its great black wings flapping in a horrible commotion. It was just about to stab when Bigwood ran straight into it from behind, knocking it sideways. So it staggered across the turf in a harsh, rambunctious crow of rage. Ah! 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 Right? Ah! Ah! Like a crow. Ah! Ah!
Yeah.
Just like the assholes we got around here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Keep at it, cried Bigwig. Come in behind it. They're cowards. They only attack helpless rabbits. But already the crow was making off, flying low with slow, heavy wing beats, and they watched it clear the further hedge and disappear into the wood beyond the river. In silence, there was a gentle, tearing sound as the gazing cows moved closer. Bigwig strolled over to Pipkin and, muttering a ribald Auslan lampoon, "Hoye, hoye, you ember higher. Moslang len haraka vire." In translation to everybody that gives a damn about this video and about this book, it means, "Hoyo, hoyo, the stinking thousand. We meet them even when we stop to pass our droppings." So you take a shit and the ELO, the bad guys, will show up the wrong time when you're taking a dump.
Basically, I can't even take a shit in the morning without seeing one of these assholes.
Yep, without seeing one of these assholes is right. "Come on, Harlaroo," he said. "Get your head out now. Having quite a day, aren't we?" says Bigwig. He turned away and Pipkin tried to follow him. Hazel remembered that Fiber said he thought he was injured. Now, as he watched him limp and staggering up the slope, it occurred to him he might actually be wounded in some way. He kept trying to put his near side front paw on the ground and then draw it up again, hopping on 3 legs. "I'll have to look at him as soon as we're settled under cover," he thought. "Poor little chap. He won't be able to get much further like that." At the top of the slope, Buckthorn was already leading the way into the bean field. Hazel reached the hedge, crossed a narrow turf verge on the other side, and found himself looking straight down a long, shadowy aisle between 2 rows of beans. The earth was soft and crumbling, the scattering of weeds that was found in the cultivating fields, charlock, pimpernel, and mayweed, all growing in the green gloom under the bean leaves. As plants move in the breeze, the sunlight dabbled, specked back and forth over the brown soil, the white pebbles and the weeds. Yet this ambiguous restlessness, there was nothing alarming, for the whole forest took part in it, and only sound was the soft, steady movement of leaves. Far along the bean row, Hazel glimpsed Buckthorn's back and followed him into the depths of the field. Soon after, all the rabbits had come together in a kind of hollow. Far around on all sides stood orderly rows of beans, secured them from hostile approach, and roofing over them and covering their scent. They could hardly been safer underground. Even a little food could be had at a pinch, for here and there pale twists of grass, here and there a dandelion. "We can sleep here all day," said Hazel, "but I suppose one of us ought to stay awake, and I'll take the first turn. It'll give you a chance to have a look at your paw, Halaroo. I think you got something in it. Pipkin was lying on his left side, breathing quickly and rolling over and stretching his front paw, underside upward. Peered into it. Hazel peered into it through the coat's hair. Rabbit's foot have no pads, guys. All right? They don't have pads. And after a few moments, he saw what he expected, an oval shank of a snapped-off thorn sticking out through the skin. There was a little blood, and the flesh was torn. "You got a big thorn in there, Halaroo," he said. "No wonder you can't run. I'll have to get it out." Getting the thorn out was not easy, for the foot had become tender, and Pipkin winced and pulled away even from Hazel's tongue. But after a great deal of patient effort, Hazel succeeded in working out enough of the stump to get a grip with his teeth. The thorn came out smoothly and the wound bled. The spine was so long and thick that Hawkbit, who happened to be close by, woke Speedwell to have a look at it. "Frit above, Pipkin," says Speedwell, snipping at the thorn laying on the pebble. "You better collect a few more like that. Then you would make a notice board in frightened fiber. You might have poked out the Landry's eye out for us. If only you known." "Lick the place, Hell," says Hazel. "Lick it until it feels better, and then go to sleep." That's the end of number 9 of Watership Down. All right, anything to add? Or nothing?
Well, it looks like Hazel is basically inexperienced in to figure out who an enemy is. So the crow came back to bite her.
Yeah, a little bit of excitement there with the crow. But crows, of course, naturally don't eat rabbits. So, unless it's a dead rabbit and it'll poke at its body. But, I don't know. Well, I don't know what pissed off the crow. Maybe he's just an asshole.
Well, look, by himself, doesn't have a flock. I guess all the other crows are sick of his shit too, like in the woods.
Yeah. So then he managed to get on Bigwig's bad side and he took him out. So, well, there you go. Watership Down, Chapter 9, Episode 9. And we got another 41 to go.